This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Is discussing the source of the Torah of Noshim from Mitzvahs HaSeishis Mangaroma. How do we know that women are exempt from all time-bound mitzvahs? And the Gemara says that we know that women are potter from Tefillin because they're potter from Talmud Torah. Because it says Vishinantam levanecha, that means the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is to men and not for women. And since tefillin are compared, it says the man, we're talking about tefillin, the man, you see that women are exempt from tefillin. And tefillin are compared to the whole Torah. So just like women are potter from tefillin, they're potter from Kallah Torah Kula. So the Magen Avraham says, you see from the Gemara Kiddushin, that the Gemara says that there's a hekesh, a comparison between tefillin and all the other mitzvahs. And that's how we know that women are potter from all mitzvahs. So just like there's a comparison in regards to the pitur of mitzvahs shas mangarama, there's also a comparison in this halacha. That there is a source in the Torah that tefillin have to be edible, the man but the same hekesh that exempts women from all mitzvahs shas mangarama, the same hekesh will also tell you that every mitzvah has to be Torah Hashem beficha. Now that's really how Rabbi Yosef knows that the straps of the tefillin have to be, because the straps of the tefillin are no worse than any other mitzvah. I mean, the straps of the tefillin are not initially included in the pasuk, because the pasuk is only talking about Torah Hashem. The words of Hashem have to be beficha. But since we have a hekesh to all the other mitzvahs, included in the other mitzvahs are the ritzuas of the tefillin, and other mitzvahs are no less, and the ritzuas of the tefillin are no less. And that's how we know that all mitzvahs, according to the Magen Avraham, right? The rest of the shir is based on the Magen Avraham. Magen Avraham says, you see from there, that all mitzvahs, not just tefillin, but all mitzvahs have this halacha. The man that means the din of a mutter beficha is said by all mitzvahs, and that's the source of the Ramah who says you can't use a shofar from a behemoth tamei, because although a shofar is not tefillin, it's not ksav, but it's a mitzvah. It's at least a regular mitzvah, and therefore it also has to be a mutter beficha. That's the starting point. Yes.
Why don't you need replacement? Once you make this hackish, you can know backwards that the Susa the same.
I think that's exactly what Rabbi Yosef is saying. Rabbi Yosef is saying there is a hekesh. That's exactly what Rabbi Yosef did. Without Rabbi Yosef, you wouldn't have known there was a hekesh. You would have said it only applies to Torah Hashem beficha. Rabbi Yosef says, now that we have a hekesh, like you see the Gemara Kiddushin, it applies in all mitzvahs, including the ritzuas of the tefillin. What's the Magen Avraham is saying? The source for the din of Rabbi Yosef is the hekesh of the Gemara Kiddushin. Okay. That's the starting point. Now the question is, related to Techeiles, is within the world of the Magen Avraham, does this prove that the Murex is not the correct Techeiles? Ms. Chazal don't give us any clear indication whether the Chilazon used for the Techeiles was kosher or not kosher. They don't say. Rashi calls it a Teilas, Chazal call it a Chilazon, right? There's lots of different words, right? But as you saw, the Noda Yehuda says there are ways in which things could be kosher. If it's a sea creature, then sea creatures, as long as it has fins and scales, as we learned this morning, you just have to find the scales, and it's kosher, right? So it could be that the Chilazon is kosher. If we didn't hold like Magen Avraham, we'd have no problem, right? Because we can just say it only applies to tefillin, it only applies to ksav, like the Eish Shabbos says. But within the world of the Magen Avraham, that's the continuation. The Magen Avraham says, you see from the Gemara in Shabbos, that it doesn't just apply to ksav, it applies to the ritzuas. And if it applies to the ritzuas, why shouldn't it apply to a shofar? And if it applies to a shofar, why shouldn't it apply to tzitzis? So how can you dye your tzitzis with the dam of the Chilazon if the Chilazon is not kosher? That's the question we're going to address, and we're going to talk about for the rest of the shir. It means the Chilazon that's used today, and the same question would be on the Redzina Techeiles, the same question, which is why the Redzina discusses this question, right? The cuttlefish, which was the Redzina Techeiles, is also not kosher, and the Yamthina, which was the Rabbi Herzog's Techeiles, is also not kosher. So all the suggestions for the Techeiles in the last 130 years were not kosher species, and therefore there should be a problem of Hamuta Beficha to use it like Huta Lemeleche Shamayim Ela Or Behema Tahira Bilvad. Okay, now we have to be makdim that using something that comes from an animal which is not kosher is also a problem. It's not just using the leather which is the problem, right? There's a halacha which is Mishnah in Techeiles, Perikalef Mishnah Beis, Hayetze min hatamei tamei. Anything which is produced by a non-kosher animal is not kosher. So the blood of a non-kosher animal is not kosher. The milk of a non-kosher animal is not kosher. Right? That's a Gemara in Daf Zayin Amud Aleph and Amud Beis. in Bechayres, in Paskin and Shulchan Aruch, that you can't use any Yotzei bin HaTamei is Tamei. So therefore, that's where we have the problem. The Yotzei min ha-murex is Tamei, just like the murex is Tamei. And if the Magen Avraham is correct, that you, for all mitzvahs, we have this limitation of a mutter beficha, we are going to have to deal with this issue. Okay? All right. So, there are many answers given, and they all are around the two basic answers which we have in the notes here. The Noda B'Yehuda discusses it from a different angle. The Noda B'Yehuda's question, first of all, was can you use the blood of a non-kosher fish, the oil from a non-kosher fish, to enhance the black of the tefillin straps? The same shaila. Hayotzei ben hatamei, it's oil that comes from a non-kosher fish. Hayotzei ben hatamei tamei, and you're enhancing this mitzvah. So there's lots of different studim. The point that we're concentrating on is the question of enhancing color or coloring. Is that a problem of mutter beficha? That means we know to use a shofar or to write or make the ksav, that's a problem of mutter beficha. But just to make something's color, maybe that's okay. That's his question.
Making something a color or shining the color?
The shining the color is another nakuda which may make it even more kal. Right? That's another sniff of the Noda B'Yehuda that even if coloring is also, maybe enhancing the color is better. But that's another prat in the equation. Isn't the point that we're looking for? Because it doesn't help us. Right? In the Noda B'Yehuda's shaila it does, but his raya is what's important to us. That means the basis that this should be more lenient to make color from something which is forbidden than to actually make something from which is forbidden are two sugyas in Chazal. One is a sugya in Pesachim, which is alcohol, mare, v'reyach, ein b'hem mishum me'ila. Means usually the prohibition of having hana, taking pleasure, benefit from something which is used in the Beis HaMikdash is a issa me'ila. But if it's just smelling something, or looking at it, or hearing something which is pleasing, there's no issa me'ila. Koil, mare, v'reyach, ein b'hem mishum me'ila. So you see already that although you couldn't take this thing and eat it, that would be an issa hana, right? But just looking at it is not the same quality of hana. So it could be that could be used as a source that, although we find that it has to be mutter beficha, but if you're just using it to color something, that's not as bad. Could be it's not as bad. That's one source for an idea that's more lenient. You see, Noda B'Yehuda's merames on that. And there's another sugya, which is a sugya in Baba Kama, Kuf Aleph, where the Gemara's got a shaila of whether chazusa milsa or lav milsa, which means to take, which is more directly relevant, because the Gemara in Pesachim talking about looking at something, right? The Gemara in Baba Kama is more directly relevant to our discussion, which is to take something which is asa bahana and to die with it, like klipe arla. Right, you have orla, right? The first 3 years of after something's planted, you're not allowed to benefit from the fruits. If you take those fruits and dye a piece of material with it, does that piece of material become forbidden to use? Right, because it doesn't actually have, you're not actually eating it, you're not ingesting it, but you're using the color. So that's a sugya in Baba Kama, and the Gemara doesn't seem to come out with a clear answer. Right, the Gemara is not so clear with the chazusa, just the hana you get from being able to change its color is that milsa or lav milsa. So those are two sugyas that the Noda B'Yehuda. This, by the way, the Noda B'Yehuda over here is not the Noda B'Yehuda himself; is his son, right? So the Noda B'Yehuda's son. Those are two sources that may make it more lenient, and therefore, even if there is an issa to use for melecha shemayim, for black of the straps of tefillin, you'd have to use kosher ingredients. But since it's just a color, maybe it's more lenient. That's his starting point. Then his suggestion is, but this is different than chazusa. Chazusa is where the color isn't important. It might be important to you, but it's not halachically important. Right? You want to dye your sweater green, so it's straight, but there's no halacha that it has to be green. But whether there's a halacha that it has to be black, like the tefillin straps, maybe that's more chashuv. So although we say chazusa, even if we're going to be lenient on the idea that chazusa lav milsa, just the appearance of something is not considered taking hana from it, but where you need that color, like the black of that might be worse. That's his starting point, which isn't relevant to us. Maybe the need, the halachic need, the mitzvah need for that specific color makes it more cham or makes it more strict. Says the Rabbi Yehuda, I can prove this is not true. Where can I prove it's not true? B'dava shehi mitzvah b'chazuz, afilu b'dava shehi mitzvah b'chazuz. So where the mitzvah is to dye that color, lo yishach boy min muta b'ficha. There's still no din of muta b'ficha. Means the idea of chazusa, lav milsa, that the appearance is not considered choshev enough to warrant a problem of being muta b'ficha, is true even if you need that particular color. The ideas we said a few minutes ago are true even in this case. What's my proof? The Techeiles haya b'mishkan, u'b'mikdash, b'paroiches, u'b'bigdei kahuna. Notice he doesn't ask our kasha on the Magen Avram. He doesn't ask from Techeiles of tzitzis, because who says the Magen Avram's right? Rabbi Yehuda is not responsible to the Magen Avram's chiddush that the din min hamutah b'ficha applies in all mitzvahs. Maybe he holds like the Oil Shabbos. So that's why he doesn't ask it from tzitzis, he asks it from the Beis HaMikdash. If there's a din that tefillin have to be, right, Melech HaShamayim, you could say tzitzis is not called Melech HaShamayim, but the Beis HaMikdash. And then he says, well, even if you say the Beis HaMikdash is okay, what about the Bigdei Kahuna? The Bigdei Kahuna is even more choshev, because the Bigdei Kahuna actually had writing on them. Right? The ephod had Techeiles in it. On the ephod was the Reuven, Shimon, Levi. So just like your tefillin have a shin on them, and they have to, so the ephod, how you'll say, but the ephod is only attached, so it's no worse than the ritzuas of tefillin. It means even the Oil Shabbos agrees the ritzuas of tefillin need. So why should your ephod have to have Techeiles in it any worse than the ritzuas of tefillin? And or later on, the Rabbi Yehuda says that the tzitz, Kodesh Hashem, the tzitz had Kodesh Hashem. What held the tzitz in position was the straps of Techeiles. So that's what you see how he's asking. He's asking a slightly different kasha. We're asking on Magen Avram because the Magen Avram holds that all mitzvahs have to be muta b'ficha. So we've got a kasha from Techeiles if it's not kasha. He's asking from the Beis HaMikdash and the Bigdei Kahuna, which is a better kasha. We'll see. Maybe it's a better kasha because it's not limited to the Magen Avram. Anybody who holds that tefillin have to be black, including the straps have to be black, how can you use Techeiles for the... Sorry, I said it wrong. Anyone who holds that tefillin straps have to be namuta b'ficha, not black. Black's a different issue, right? That they have to be from a kosher species. So just like the tefillin straps have to be from a kosher species, therefore the Bigdei Kahuna, which held that the ephod and the tzitz, they should also have to be from a kosher species. That's the Rabbi Yehuda's kasha. Elamai, what you see? You see from here that that concept of chazusa, lav milsa, just the color of something, its appearance doesn't have the chashivas of something which is also to use. Doesn't apply even when you need that particular color. Even when you need the color blue, or whatever color it is, there's no din of muta b'ficha. That you see from the Bigdei Kahuna. That's the Rabbi Yehuda's right. And therefore, just like it answers Rabbi Yehuda's question, of course it's going to answer our question on the Magen Avram. Although it was a slightly different question, but the answer will answer our question as well. That even if you say that the Techeiles used, right, is from a non-kosher species, like the murex is non-kosher, right? And even if you say that there's a din of muta b'ficha in all mitzvahs, there's not a problem with tzitzis, because there's no din of muta b'ficha when it comes to chazusa, even if the chazusa is le'ikuva. It means even if you need that specific color, the mitzvah, it's still not a problem. That's one answer to answer the Magen Avram. Okay. The next teretz is an answer of the Even HaOzel, which is a different approach. Different approach is starting with the halacha in the Rambam, where the Rambam says that one of the ingredients of the besamim was mar. The Rambam holds that mar is what we call in English musk. And the Rambam writes that it comes from the blood which is collected from a chaya in India. And it's well known. The Ravid has a problem with this. The Ravid disagrees. The Ravid says mar is maya. I think it's spelled M-Y-R-H-H, something like that. Okay? It's a plant, it's not from an animal. The Ravid says, what's wrong with the Rambam's chat that it's mar, which is from this animal? You think that in the Beis HaMikdash you blood from a chaya? Blood is not minamuta b'ficha. You can't eat blood. For sure, if it's a chaya tameya, because you can debate whether this animal is tahira or tameya. That's not the issue, right? We're more interested not in what's the reality of the chaya, of what's the shittas. How do you answer the Rambam from the Ravid's kasha, right? So it comes along the Kesef Mishnah. And the Kesef Mishnah says that the blood of this chaya is kiven shenishtane mitzuras dam v'nase ka'ofa ba'alma loigora b'shvil zeh michaya tameya. So the Kesef Mishnah says that this blood is not regular blood. Nishtane mitzuras dam, but nase ka'afa. What does he mean? What's not regular about it? Why is it different than the blood of any other animal? Says the Evan Ozol, the kosher. Kiven to whom milsa detalia bisfara. I mean, since the idea of muta beficha is something which is learned bisfara, he seems to disagree with Magen Avraham. Magen Avraham says it's learned from a hekesh. We learn it from a mantia toeshem beficha, and when we have a hekesh to Kallah Torah kula. He says it's a svara. It's a svara. Rabbi Yosef's din is not learned from a pasuk. The pasuk is for tefillin, ksav, and for the batim. How do you know all the other things? The svara. It's svara that you can't use in meleches shamayim something which is not kosher. If it's a svara, then to whatever extent it's a svara, it's also a svara that it should apply even if it's just for dyeing something. It means he's come to disagree with the Rabbi Yehuda. If it was a din, it was a pasuk, it was halacha, so you can start using halachic parameters. Since it's a din of chazusa lav milsa, therefore it doesn't apply in the area of muta beficha. But muta beficha is a svara. It's a bad feeling. How can you use something which is not kosher in the base of mikdash? How can you use meleches shamayim something which comes from an animal which is not kosher? So once that's true, so what does it help chazusa lav milsa? Certainly, if you hold chazusa milsa, it's a problem. If chazusa lav milsa, it shouldn't help you. That's, he says, his problem. So what's his answer? His answer is so his question, if so, same question we had on the Magen Avraham. How can you use dam Chilazon in the Beis Hamikdash? Again, he asked the question like Rabbi Yehuda does. How can you use it in the Beis Hamikdash? That's for sure kedusha. It's meleches shamayim. So how could they use it in the Beis Hamikdash? His answer is that the dam is mifked pocket. So all of those who've learned ksuvas on Daf Hayom and Beis knows that Tosfos says that just like the Gemara has a suffix where the dam besulim is mifked pocket, that means is the blood part of the bloodstream, or is it just a pocket of blood there which is released in the Maisa Be'ila? Tosfos brings Rabbeinu Tam, who says that the dam should serve him by Chilazon, the dam of the Chilazon is also mifked pocket. It's not part of the bloodstream, and that's why when you take it out, you don't kill the animal by taking the blood. You kill the animal because you squash it like that. But the actual taking of the blood is not netilas neshama, because that blood's not part of the bloodstream. It's mifked pocket. It's just collected there, and you take it out. So since it's mifked pocket, it's not got a din of a yotzim min hatamei tamei. Yotzim min hatamei tamei is the blood, is the milk, but this is not really yotzim min hatamei. It's similar to the din of honey, bees honey. Bees honey, even though bees are not kosher, you're allowed to eat the honey because the bees manufacture it. It's a byproduct of the bees. It's not yotzim min hatamei, right? The Rabbi Zalman here is comparing this to the Shittas HaRif. The Rif holds that you can use rennet from a kosher animal that nursed from a non-kosher animal. Right? That's the Rif Shita. Right? That means the milk comes from a non-kosher in this aspect means treifa. You can't use the milk from an animal which is a treifa, even if it's a kosher species. So if a calf nursed from its mother that was a treifa, you shechted them and you say it's a treifa. So now you know all the milk which this calf has been ingesting the whole time is non-kosher milk. Right? And yet still, when you shech the kosher calf, you're allowed to take all that lining of the stomach and use it for making cheese. Why did you say hayotzim min hatamei tamei? I mean, it came from the mother. The answer is that since it's become part of this calf, I'm getting mixed up the other way around, right? It's talking about treifa sheyankom min hatahira, right? A treifa means you shechted the one you found out it's treifa, but its unika was from its mother that was tahar. That's not called a yotzim min hatamei tamei. It means it went in when it was tahar. It became part of the treifa animal, and now when you take it, cut it away from the stomach, that's not called a yotzim min hatamei tamei. So you see that something that's not part of the life system of this animal is not called yotzim min hatamei tamei. Hu adin, the dam which is mifked in the Chilazon. Okay, so far those are the two approaches to answer the kash. Again, he's answering the kash from the Big Dik Kahuna. We're answering the Magen Avraham with his kash. There's two approaches. How, if the murex is correct, which is a non-kosher species, how can that be used for the Techeiles to dye the tzitzis? According to the Magen Avraham, tzitzis needs to be min hamuta beficha, even though it's not a ksav, it's not a ksiva. The two answers we have so far. One answer is that One answer is the answer of the Nod of Yehuda, Chazus Alav Milsa. You can't eat this, and you can't have a nar from it, but just the dyeing of it, that's okay, even if the dye is needed for a particular color. That's Nod of Yehuda's teretz. Well, the other teretz is that it's not yotzei min hatamei tamei. If you actually use the part of the animal, like the or, that's no good. But if you actually use its blood, real blood, also. But if you're using the dam, which is mifked pocket, it means it's not part of the lifeblood of the animal. It's not connected to the nervous system. That's not called yotzei min hatamei, just like you say by the rennet from the cows and by the honey from the bees. Those are the two approaches. Okay. Now we come to the problem. The problem is Rabbeinu Bechaya. Rabbeinu Bechaya in Chumash asks two questions. How come in the Beis HaMikdash there was no meshi? Meshi is silk. Silk is a very expensive material. Why didn't they use silk in the Beis HaMikdash? It's an interesting question. Like, I don't know what's... we don't ask questions like that. But Rabbeinu Bechaya did. Yeah? What did Rabbeinu Bechaya answer? Zav hizki shloisha b'nei matches, shloisha b'nei tzemeh, v'loi matzinu meshi b'nidvas hamishkan, lefi shehu yoytze miguf hasheret, shehu ha'teilas. Because it's yoytze min hatamei. Means you get silk from a silkworm. Silkworms are not kosher; they're tamei. So what is he hinting to here? He's hinting to the sugin Shabbos. Like so just like you can't use for tefillin, you can't use a pigskin, so therefore it's not right to use meshi, which comes from a silkworm, in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay? Just like the tachash was the tachash skin, it must be that it came from a kosher species, otherwise you'd have the same problem. So Rabbeinu Bechaya has got a kasha. If so, if that's true, the reason why they didn't use meshi is because it's not a kosher species. How could they use Telah Shani? Telah Shani comes from a worm. That's why it's called Telah Shani. Means it's a worm that produces a dye. So how could they use the dye from this worm? So ready from his question, you see, what do you mean? That's not a question. Say like the Nod of Yehuda. That what? Chazus alav milsi. Even if you need the color, Chazus alav milsi. So obviously Rabbeinu Bechaya doesn't hold like the Nod of Yehuda. Correct? Okay. What about the second teretz of the Evner Ozil? Well, is the dam of the Telas mifked pocket or not? Like, I'm not sure. Let's see what his answer is. It's not from the body of the telas. The tseva, the dye, doesn't come from the body of the worm. It's from the seeds which the worm is inside. Now those few words are not very clear what he means. But the Rambam expands on this idea in Hilchos Para Aduma. And the Rambam says the following. Telas. What is this color called telas, Shoni? He gargarim adumim. They're red seeds. Beyoise, very red. They look like the seeds of a carob tree. So we're talking about seeds from a plant, from a tree. V'hu k'moi ha'uk. And what uk is? Uk is a tree. And these seeds grow on this tree. So why is it called telas shani? V'telas k'moi yitush yesh b'chol gargar mehem. Inside each seed there is a yitush. That's why it's called telas shani. But the red doesn't come from them, right? It just means that for some reason or other, this particular plant is infested with tolaim, right? Just like there's lots of things we know are infested with tolaim, but this one is so infested that it even got its shame from the telas. But in actual fact, the color doesn't come from the telas; the color comes from the red seeds, and that's the answer to the question. Beautiful answer. Yeah.
Why is meshi taken out of the picture? Those worms is coming from the goof of the worm. Silk
comes out of the goof. Where does it come from? Here the seed is red, right? And there's a telas inside the seed. That's got absolutely nothing to do with it.
The meshi is part of, like Rob said, the nervous system.
I don't know. They have to decide whether he holds of that teretz or not. I don't know. But that's not a kasha on the telas. On the telas, it's completely nothing to do with it. It just gets its name from this worm which is inside the seed which produces the red dye. Yeah. My kasha is, it's not just my kasha. I've seen other people ask this kasha. Why did Rabbeinu Bechaya not ask from Techeiles? And what's his answer to Techeiles? It means if Rabbeinu Bechaya really was bothered by Techeiles, he said, oh no, Techeiles doesn't bother me because Chazus Alav Milsahi, then there's no kasha from Telah Shani either. And if he held like the Bnei Yehuda, that Techeiles doesn't bother because it's Mifkud Pocket, what was his question for Telah Shani? Maybe in Telah Shani it's also Mifkud Pocket. You can't tell me that he knew that Telah Shani was not Mifkud Pocket, because in the end he tells you that Telah Shani, Bichlal, the blood doesn't come from the Telas. So that means in his question he didn't know what was Telah Shani. So to the same extent that he didn't know that Telah Shani was not Mifkud Pocket, he didn't know anything about Techeiles either. That means if he thinks that the answer to Techeiles is that it's Mifkud Pocket, it's not part of the system, why doesn't he answer Telah Shani like that? Why does he have to say Telah Shani doesn't come from... Now it's true that's the reality. I understand that it's true that Telah Shani doesn't produce it, but why didn't it bother him Techeiles? Why doesn't he ask from Techeiles? He doesn't ask what you're supposed to know. I'm supposed to know the Rabbi Yehuda. I'm supposed to know the Even HaOzel. It bothered him Meshi. It bothered him Telah Shani, and he answers both of them. Why doesn't he ask from Techeiles? So someone to say, this is a raya? I know one of the rabbis in my neighborhood who wears Techeiles. He wrote to me a letter. He says, you're right. Rabbeinu Bechaya, he wrote to me his notes. Rabbeinu Bechaya is a raya that it's a min kosher. And obviously the Murex is not correct according to Rabbeinu Bechaya. Okay, so it's a shita yichidah, and therefore we don't have to bother about it, right? And that's what he wrote to me. And I think there's another approach. I think, no, even Rabbeinu Bechaya would hold our Murex is okay. So anyone thinks I'm here to slug up Rav Gil, it's not true, right? Even Rabbeinu Bechaya, the fact that Rabbeinu Bechaya didn't ask from Techeiles is not because he holds that Techeiles is a min kasha. Again, how could Techeiles be a min kasha? Chazal cholo a Chilazon, Rashi calls it a Telas. The answer is, if it's a Chilazon amayim, and it's got snappy v'kaskeses, so it'll be kasha. It means a sheretz ha'aretz, it doesn't help that, there's no way you can make a sheretz ha'aretz kasha. But sheretz amayim, all it has to have is snappy v'kaskeses. Now, I know that Murex doesn't have snappy v'kaskeses, it doesn't have fins and scales, so obviously that's not the approach. But you could or couldn't, maybe Rabbeinu Bechaya holds it does have snappy v'kaskeses. Could do. Although that's why he didn't ask from Techeiles. He doesn't hold of the Noda Yehuda's teretz. He doesn't hold of the Even HaOzel's teretz. So why didn't he ask from Techeiles? The answer is, who told you Techeiles is kosher? Who told you it's not kosher? That is the approach. That's the approach to answer this Rabbeinu Bechaya. I would like to suggest another approach of why this Rabbeinu Bechaya is not a kasha on the Murex. So, let's see this amazing Yereim. The Yereim was a Talmud of Rabbeinu Tam, and he writes a Sefer Mitzvah. It's a Mitzvah Tov Aleph. He says, "V'tziva HaKadosh Baruch Hu says Techeiles b'tzitzis." HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us to put Techeiles in tzitzis. Dichsiv v'nosenu al tzitzis hakonof pesil Techeiles. V'Techeiles hu tzemeh tzavur b'dam. Techeiles is not just a color. Techeiles is wool dyed in the dam of a Chilazon. And then he continues, how do you know that Techeiles is tzemeh? And he brings a Gemara in Yevamos that proves that Techeiles is not just blue dye. It means blue, wool dyed blue. How do you know that it's dyed in the blood of the Chilazon? Have a svara. It's a svara. It's logical that we should die with the blood of a Chilazon. The reason, it says in the Torah explicitly, the reason why we're commanded to do tzitzis is to remember the mitzvahs. It's called mitzvahs Hashem. You look at the tzitzis and you remember the mitzvahs. Hilkach. Therefore, yesh lanu loima, we should say, shehatzeva, the tseva, the blue, zikaron hayoitzehu. It's remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'oisai tseva, and that color, that's the blue, alidei doime ledoime, by comparing to a comparison, doime lekisei hakavod. Through a train of thought, that color is similar to the color of the kisei hakavod. Kedusanya b'menachos the Gemara in Daf Mem Gimel on my base. Hi Rabbi, I'm a man ishtan Techeiles mikol min tzivayim. Why was Techeiles picked out of all the other colors to be the one for the tzitzis? Lefi Techeiles daimel yam, the yam daimel rakia, v'rakia daimel kisa hakavod. Because the Techeiles is the color of the sea is the color of the sky is similar to the kisa hakavod. So by comparison, we get to the kisa hakavod. Okay, so many of you came to me, asked me, what do I want from the Yereim, and what does the Yereim want? What is the Yereim's question, and what is his answer to the question? Yeah, again, he asks, Minalon, from where do we know? Who is he asking the question on? How do I know? Or how did Chazal know? Well, if the question is, how do I know? Right? Because Gemara Menachos says that you use Dam Chilazon. So obviously the Yereim is not saying, how do I know? If he's asking, how did Chazal know? Then what's his question? How did Chazal know that you should use a Chilazon and not pomegranate juice? Meaning, how did Chazal know that Techeiles is blue and not red? Is that the question? And then he says, well, then he's got a good answer. If that was his question, the answer's good. How did Chazal know Techeiles is blue? Maybe Techeiles is green, maybe Techeiles is red. Could be any color, right? So, because since it says, so you have to remember the mitzvahs. So probably the color there is a way of remembering the mitzvahs. How does the color way of remembering the mitzvahs? Because it's blue, which is done with the kisakov, and that way you remember the mitzvahs. Right? But that's crazy. Right? How would anyone ask a question like that? And how do you know what color our gammon is? Well, that was what the Stuki asked Hillel, wasn't it? How do you know what Hillel says? How do you know what an aleph is? How do you know what base is? Kallah kula is halacha Moshe v'Sinai. Kallah is Messiah. Is there a question to ask? How did Chazal know that the color of Techeiles is blue? And how did Chazal know that our gammon is purple? And how did they know Talah Shari is red? How did they know anything? That's not a question. So what is his question? What is the Yereim's question? The other possibility is, how did Chazal know you use Chilazon and not Kallah? So we heard this morning that Kallah is the ziyuf, is the fake Techeiles, made from indigo, plant that grows in India. Right? How did Chazal know if Techeiles is just blue dye, wool dyed blue? So we know what Techeiles is, but how did they know that it's from a Chilazon and not from Kallah? What's wrong with Kallah? Right? It's a good question. Right? Let's say there was no, you could answer there was a Messiah, right? You can say that, you can always say that, right? Yeah? But the word Techeiles means blue. So how did Chazal know to use a Chilazon and not Kallah? So then what's his answer? His answer is because he has daima, but Kallah is the same color. Kallah is so close to the color of Techeiles that when you wear it, no one can even tell that you've got Kallah. That's why the Gemara in Baba Kama says that the person the Kallah was a ziyuf, and a person who puts on Kallah instead of putting on Techeiles, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "What will happen to him?" But only I know the difference. And I who could distinguish between who's a bachar and who's not a bachar, I'll get the guy who puts Kleilon on his tzitzis and calls them Techeiles. So obviously Kleilon is almost identical to, or maybe it's even identical to the Techeiles of the Chilazon. So how's he answer the question? If the kasher is, again, the kasher can't be, how does he know? How did Chazal know? Chazal knows because Techeiles means blue, like it looked in the Aruch and it said blue, so that's how they know it means blue. Like any other word in Tanakh, how do they know what it means? It's a silly question, right? And if the question was, how do you know it's from Chilazon, not Kleilon, he hasn't answered the question. This Yereim's a pella. That's what I wanted you. I didn't want you to say, what's Yereim got to do with the rest of the Shia, right? Obviously, the question is, what's Yereim want? What's he asking, what's he answering? So I want to introduce you to an idea. This is the Chiddush of the Shia. Again, there's no Chiddushim in Techeiles, right? Because it's all been written by somebody somewhere, right? But the Chiddush of the Shia is the Tiferes Yisrael. The Tiferes Yisrael has an introduction to his Pirush on Mishnayos and Seder Moed. And in it, a very long introduction, all about the Lamentes Malach. And there's one section there about the Big Dikahuna. Klale Big Dikahuna. And in there, he talks about Arichos at length about the Techeiles. Then he has a beautiful diuk, like until you see this diuk. The Rambam in Hilchos, where is it? Periches in Hilchos Big Dikahuna, Periches Alach Yud Gimel. The Rambam brings down that the Big Dikahuna need Techeiles. He doesn't mention anything about the Chilazon. He just says it has to be blue, like the color of the sky. Doesn't mention anything about the Chilazon. Says the Mishnah Melech. How come the Rambam didn't mention anything about Chilazon? He should have done. He relied on what he wrote in Hilchos Tzitzis. So the Rambam in Hilchos Tzitzis writes that the Techeiles needs to be from a Chilazon. So you understand that the Chiddush in Big Dikahuna needs to be Chilazon as well. That's what the Mishnah Melech writes in Hilchos Big Dikahuna. Says the Tiferes Yisrael, Pukfaket. If you look in Hilchos Tzitzis, you'll see that the Rambam was very, very careful to make a distinction between the Big Dikahuna and Tzitzis. Let's read the Rambam together. Shocking Rambam. Read it together. Halach Aleph. Techeiles ho'amura ba'atayra b'chol malkoim. Now the Rambam's doing Hilchos Tzitzis now. But he's not talking about tzitzis at the moment. He's giving an introduction. When the Torah says anywhere, wherever, in Kol Makom, where it says the word Techeiles, he had semer, had savua, kepatuch shebekachol, v'zuhi demus harakia had niris le'ein hashemesh b'tahar shel rakia. It's the color of the sky. I know how you translate that. I presume it means at midday. That's how I guess it means. Right? I don't know. Okay, when the sky is clear and you can see a clear blue sky, as they can say in English, that's the color we're talking about. And that's what it means to Techeiles. Right? V'hatcheiles hu amura b'tzitzis. Tzorich shetiye tzviyasa tzviya yudua she'imedes b'yafya v'loi tishtane v'chol shalei nitzba ba'oisa tzviya posel l'tzitzis. Doesn't mean the tzitzis are posel. It means you can't use it for tzitzis. Even though it's exactly the right color. Exactly. Molecular structure is dibromide indigo. Right? It's indigo, it's exactly the same thing. It's still possible. For tzitzis. Says it's very solid. It's not even a diuk, it's mufurish in the Rambam. It's only a din in tzitzis. The din that you need to have this tseva, yodua, tzviyasa, yodua, is only a din in tzitzis. It's not a din in Big Day Kahuna. And that's why he didn't mention it in Hilchos Big Day Kahuna, because the Rambam holds it's not a din in Big Day Kahuna. Istis is a European form of indigo. It's a different plant. But it's the same color. Again, it's possible the tzitzis. What is this Yodua? He says in Alachan Beis. What is the Tzviya Yodua? He says, Kate said so even Techeiles shel tzitzis loichim atzema v'shonose b'tzid v'achim kach machbisem v'sat shianoki u'martichim v'yse ba'ala v'kyotu v'kadev shetzvin hoisim k'tei shikles ha'ayin arach mevim dam Chilazon v'hu tag shadai me'ein alein Techeiles whatever. It says in Tveres Yisrael that it's Baruch Hashemesh, and the Rambam Shitter is that Techeiles ha'muru b'chol makom you can use indigo, klei ilan, istis, whatever you want. As long as it's the right color, it has to be Techeiles. But there's no din that it has to come from the Chilazon. In tzitzis, it has to come from the Chilazon. In fact, where did the Rambam get that chiluk from? He doesn't know. What's the Makor for it? He has it right from Yerushalmi, whatever. Right? But the Torah says Techeiles by both of them. Where should it come from, this distinction? But there is a distinction. Okay, that's the first chiddush of the Teres Yisrael. But the din of Techeiles coming from a Chilazon, which is oimedes biyafa v'lo tishtane, that's only a din in Big Day, in tzitzis, not a din in Big Day Kahuna. But there's more. Teres Yisrael says another shlav chiddush, and this one is not so muskam, but it's also, he says, that's the difference between klei ilan and the real Techeiles. What's the difference? The difference is whether it's a medes b'yafsha v'lo tishtane. That's the difference. It means the difference between real Techeiles and fake Techeiles is not like you normally understand. Normally understand is the fact that, let's get back. The Gemara says in Menachos that if you want to test for real Techeiles and for fake Techeiles, you put through a whole process, and if you see the color fades, then you know that that's not the real Techeiles, right? So normally you understand that's a way of identifying which is the real, which is the ziyuf. Techeles said it's much deeper than that. It's not just a way, it's not just b'mikra, it's a way of identifying. That is the whole difference between real Techeiles and fake Techeiles. Real Techeiles, it's not b'mikra it stands. That's the definition of real Techeiles. That's why the Rabbi Moshe Aleph didn't even mention the Chilazon. The Rabbi Moshe Aleph says, what is real Techeiles for tzitzis? Tzviya yodua she'omedes b'yafsha v'lo tishtane. That's what real Techeiles is. The fake one fades. That's why it's fake. Not a siman that it's a fake. That's why it's a fake, because it fades. So the Techeiles all then is a third chiddush that if you have another Techeiles which doesn't fade, it'll also be kosher. Do you hear? That's a whopping chiddush. Because the Rambam's, that's an even bigger chiddush. You don't even need to be from a Chilazon. Since the defining factor of the real Techeiles is the fact that it's not mishtane, not just a siman. That's what defines it. So who cares what it is as long as it's not mishtane? That's a third chiddush, right? It's a big chiddush, right? I'll call upon him. Because the Rambam says it has to be tzviya, yodua, whatever. That's not so meduik. But the second chiddush of the Teres Yisrael is that's what defines real Techeiles. Now, if that's what defines real Techeiles, now we have to answer why. Why? Who cares? It means if you learn Chazal had a Mesorah, that has to be from a Chilazon, it has to be from the sea creature. Just see how you're going to identify it, whether it's the right thing or not the right thing. Okay, that's the standard approach. But if that's what defines the real Techeiles, then why? Why is real Techeiles defined by the fact that it's omeid b'yafsha v'lo tishtane? Why is that defining factor? Who cares? You understand? If it's a siman, I care, because I'll have the wrong Techeiles. But if that's what defines Techeiles, why should that define Techeiles by tzitzis more than by the Mishkan? I think that's what the Yereim is asking. The Yereim is asking, how did Chazal know that the Techeiles of tzitzis has to be with a Chilazon? Why can't you use Kleilon? What does it bother you that it fades? Why do you care if it's Oimeris B'Yofi or Mishtana? Says the Yerem, I'll tell you why we care. How do Chazal know that this is so important? It's so important, it's the defining factor of the Techeiles. It's because the mitzvahs, the tzitzis are there as Zeichel mitzvahs. Says Yerem, if the tzitzis are Zeichel mitzvahs, what's the Techeiles there for? As a Zeich of the Rebbeinu Shalom. If you put in there a tzeva which fades, how could that be a Zeich to the Rebbeinu Shalom? By the Rebbeinu Shalom it says a pasuk in Malachi, Ani Hashem lo shinisi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu never fades. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's there lenetzach netzachim. Hashem yimloich lo'olam va'ed. Malchusei kayim la'olam al'omayel mayetz kayim b'li shinui b'yoyfre la'olam. So when you put a Techeiles which fades, what you're saying by putting a Techeiles that fades? The Techeiles is to remain, the Zicharon, that's what the Yereim's asking. Why do you need Chilazon? Because the Chilazon is a Zeicha to Rebbeinu Shalom. Therefore, not the Chilazon. The dam of the Chilazon, which gives it tzeva, which doesn't fade, is a Zeicha to Rebbeinu Shalom. That's the Yesod of the Yereim. The Yereim is now a hezbollah to answer to this very soul's kasha. How does the Rambam, where did Chazal get it from? There's a chiluk. So the Rambam had rayas. Whatever the rayas are, but where did Chazal get the chiluk from? That's the Yereim's kasha. It's a svara. It's a svara that you have to use dam chilazon, because only the dam chilazon is made b'yoyfyoi. Now you understand how this answers Rabbeinu Bechai, right? Poshet, right? Because Rabbeinu Bechai was only asking from the Mikdash. He never asked Al Kasha the Magen Avraham. The Magen Avraham is not Kasha, because he doesn't hold like the Magen Avraham. He holds it's only a din in Mikdash, a din in Melech HaShemayim. It's not a din in all mitzvahs. But it's Kasha. What about Meshi? Oh, because he answers Meshi. What about Telah Shani? But Techeiles is not Kasha, because Techeiles can use Kleilon. Whoever said that Techeiles has to be from Mechilazon? Chazal only said that Techeiles for tzitzis have to be from Mechilazon. They didn't say that Techeiles of the base of Mikdash has to be from Mechilazon. And there's no Kasha from it. That's what nasty Kasha, because it doesn't have to be from Mechilazon. It can be from Kleilon. And we may let's not shver. That's the Yesod. Now you understand the Gemara in Baba Kama. The Gemara says, the Gemara says, why does it say Yetzias Mitzrayim by tzitzis? So Gemara says to teach you that a person who puts Kleil on his tzitzis instead of the real stuff. So ani ifchanti ben tiba l'shabachar tiba she'ein l'shabachar ani efra mimisha toila. Right? The kasha, the whole Gemara is a pella. Who are you cheating when you put Kleil on your tzitzis? The Gemara says got other things, a person who does false weights. You're cheating the guy who you gave false weights to, right? Or ribbis, right? Who are you cheating when you put Kleil on? Just yourself, right? So it's between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you stand now, right? But you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't know? Who you're trying to cheat? Now, if there's a problem with cheating yourself, then why did the Torah pick the mitzvah of you couldn't say anything? A person who eats tray for food and says it's kosher, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu will punish him. What's the difference? If you're cheating other people, I understand, but you're just cheating yourself. And why is putting Kleil on worse than not putting Techeiles at all? If you don't put Techeiles, there's nothing said about it. Okay, ain't a marker, but you didn't get a mitzvah, fine. If you put Kleil on, oi, voi. And what's it got to do with Yetzias Mitzrayim? I know Techeiles has got to do with Yetzias Mitzrayim. I know Tzitzis has got to do with Yetzias Mitzrayim. But what's the difference between Kleil and Techeiles got to do with Mitzrayim? The answer is Poshet. The Techeiles is saying Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Ani Hashem lo shinisi. Let me explain to you what I mean. The pasuk in Malachi Ani Hashem lo shinisi v'atem bnei Yaakov lo chilisim. Rashi says that this was said as an answer to a question in the previous parak. We say this on Shabbos Hagadol. Hoigatem Malachi parak base. Pasuk Yudzayin. Hoigatem Hashem b'divreichem. You have wearied Hashem with your words. Va'amartem, and you said, B'ma hoiganu. How have we made Hakadosh Baruch Hu weary? Be'emorchem, by saying, Kallah say ra toiv be'einei Hashem. All those who do evil are good in the eyes of Hashem. Ubehem hu chafetz. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires, those who do bad. Or possibly, Ayei Elokei HaMishpat. Where is the God of justice? It means when we see Rishoyim being Matzliach, Derech Rishoyim Tzaleich, and we see the tremendous success that Rishoyim have, we have one of two approaches. Either HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the Rishoyim, or there's no justice. That's what we say, because those are the only two approaches we have. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's answer to that is, Ani Hashem lo shanisi. I haven't changed. The reason why Rishoyim are Matzliach is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Erech HaPayim. That's what Rashi says over here in Malachi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives Rishoyim a chance to do tshuva. And he gives them another chance and another chance. But the din will always be done. So the fact that you see Ra in the world, the fact that we see people suffering, the fact that we see Rishoyim Matzliach, it's not a kasha on HaKadosh Baruch Hu being the Melech HaMishpat. It's not HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the Ra. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Midas HaRachamim. And that's what we say when we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad. Hashem is a Midas HaRachamim. Elokeinu is a Midas HaDin. Sometimes we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu one way. Sometimes we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu the other way. But it's all Echad. It's all the same. Ki ani Hashem lo shanisi. And we learned that in Mitzrayim when we came out of Mitzrayim. For hundreds of years, the Rishoyim were throwing babies into the walls and throwing them into the river, and Klal Yisrael, the Tzedzoya Tzadikim, was suffering terribly. And the reaction of Klal Yisrael was, because Baruch Hu loves the Rishoyim, or there's no Mishpat. But when we left Mitzrayim, that's when we learned Ki ani Hashem lo shanisi. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised at the beginning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised at the end, and it was all emes, v'yatzi, v'nachai, mekayim. That's what we learned from Yetzias Mitzrayim. But someone who puts Kle'ilan, he's missed the point. His oirus, the hispilus, the lesson we should get from Techeiles is to understand that even when things are not going well, and it looks like the Midas Hadin, we have to know it's all Rachamim. It's also coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Erech HaPayim. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is allowing things to happen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do tshuva. He wants Paro to do tshuva. He wants everyone to do tshuva, and he's giving them a chance to do tshuva. We have to take part in that and help. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the world so much success, so much shefa, in order that they should continue to be able to one day have their eyes open to be able to do tshuva, we want to be part of being able to do tshuva. Now, before we finish, just got you one thing to give you as an exercise for yourselves. Right? This whole shir was always discussing whether the murex is a kasha on beficha or not. Right? The question we really have to ask ourselves is, who cares? Who cares if the murex is right or wrong? Does it dye blue? Does it dye the right blue? It's almost beyond any shadow of doubt that it dyes the right blue. If we assume that Klei Ilan is indigo, which is what it says in the Aruch says that Klei Ilan is indigo, right? We know what color indigo is. You just look at a pair of jeans and you'll see what color Klei Ilan is, right? So we know what color it is. We know that the murex dyes exactly the same color. Not only does it dye exactly the same color, it's exactly the same molecule. Right? It's exactly the same molecular structure, the dye from indigo plant and the dye from the murex. So, do we really care that it comes from the Chilazon that Chazal talked about? This was being bothered for years. It's the right color, so who cares where it comes from? So the Tiferes Yisrael says, yes, it does very, very, very important what it comes from. Because it has to be oimei betziva. It has to be oimei b'yafyo. And if it isn't, it's kleila. That's the definition of kleila. Now, I ask you, if we have the right thing, if this is what Chazal were talking about, then by definition it's oimei b'yafyo. If it's not the right thing, then we have to know that it's oimei b'yafyo. We have to be able to prove that it's oimei b'yafyo in order to be able to pass the test. Now, how do we know whether something's oimei b'yafyo or not? How do you define what's called oimei? What does oimei b'yafyo mean? For 10 washes? On what temperature? What spin cycle is it on? How many years does it last? How many generations does it last? The Rambam didn't define for us what does oimei b'yafyo mean. If it's such a fundamental defining factor, there must be some definition to oimei b'yafyo. What is it? So the Rambam says in Halacha, hey, exactly how you test if it's Klei Ilan or it's real. He tells you put in this thing and you put in that thing and you soak it for 3 days and then you take it out. If it's gone dimmer, you put another thing, you put it in bread in an oven, and if it goes dimmer, then you know you've got Kleilon. Now I challenge anyone to do this test. Now, of course, you're going to have to do the test of the Rambam and Rashi because they've got different materials. They translate the words of the Gemara. It's a whole sugya of how you test for Kleilon. But the test, so again, until this year, you thought the test was just a way of identifying whether it's the real one or the false one. It's more than that. The test is defining it as the false one. So if you can take Kleilon, real Kleilon, right, from India, indigo, and do this test and show that it makes it dim, and take the murex dye, and show that it doesn't dim, then according to the Techeles Yisrael, you're okay. Why? Because that's the defining fact. That's all it is. That's the whole definition of the difference between the Chilazon and the Kleilon. Right? Now, I believe when we went to Dor Coast, right, the guy who tried convincing us of wearing Techeiles over there said, we're not able to reproduce this test. Right? Why? I don't know. He had some sort of explanation why we can't reproduce this test, right? But if we can't reproduce this test, it means we have no way of being able to define this as being right. Unless we know it's right. Again, if we know this is right, then we don't need to do the test, because we know this is the Chilazon that Chazal talked about. If we don't know it's right, then we have to know that it's Oim B'Yafrei. Otherwise, we risk wearing something which is not Oim B'Yafrei. The Oy Vavoy, what you're saying when you're wearing something which is not Oim B'Yafrei. Now, the question is this right or is it not right? So that I leave to you. The Gemara Menachos says, Rav Gil photocopied it for us, but it's on here as well, because obviously you have to read. Tan Rabbanon, Chilazon ze gufay doime leyam, ubriyosay doime ledag. We don't have time to go into all this. Those are 4 ways of identifying the Chilazon. Now I photocopied it here. I'm very sorry, this is from Wikipedia. Right? I know it's not makubal to quote things from Wikipedia, but that's the best I could do. Right? You read about this, about the Meurex, right? And anyone who can give Chazal more than 5% for their description of this thing is doing very well. There isn't one zeicher, one mention of any one of the 4 simanim that Chazal talked about. Not one of them, even beremez kal, to identify the murex. It means Chazal are trying to talk to someone who doesn't know what it is. Guys who know what it is don't need Chazal. Guys who don't know what it is need Chazal to help them out. Right? So Chazal should have said something like, the hypoglandular, can't even read it, gland secretes a mucus used to create a distinctive purple-blue indigo dye. Instead they say, ubadamai soivimbai. What's dam got to do with a hypoglandular gland secretion? Right? Chazal don't know how to say rear. They don't know how to say something else besides dam. The only word Chazal have for dam is to confuse you. The next one. It's expensive because it takes 10 to 12,000 murex to get 1 gram of dye. Why is it expensive? Not because it comes up once every 70 years like it says in the Gemara. Because it takes 10,000 of them to dye. Right? The Kallah. Chilazon ze gufay doime leyam. It's goof, it's body. What do they mean? If they mean the thing inside itself, for sure it doesn't look like the sea. The shell doesn't look like the sea. What color is the sea? Oh, you'll say the sea is any color. The Gemara Menachos, 10 lines beforehand, says exactly the same words. Techeiles ze doime leyam. What does those words mean? It's blue like the sea. Correct? The next page, it's not like another Masechta, it's the next page, 10 lines later, it says exactly the same words. So what does it mean? Doime leyam. That means the Chilazon is blue. Murex is white. Not blue. So Rabbi Herzog suggesting the Yanthina was good because the mollusk, Rabbi Herzog is actually blue, right? But the murex, anyway, I'm not here to debate. I want just to leave it to you to decide. Look at Chazal. No, the point I'm trying to say is like this: that if we had the right thing, we wouldn't have to worry about the fact that it's Omer B'Yafrei. Chazal said the right thing is Omer B'Yafrei. If we've got something else and we want to rely on the Techeles Yisrael, then we have to know that it's Omer B'Yafrei because that's the defining fact of it being right. For that, we have to be able to test. For that, you have to test it. If you can test. Not say the fact that it lasts to be 20 years because you didn't do Chazal's test. Right? Your genes probably last you 20 years too. But you have to use Chazal's test. Is it Omer B'Yafrei? If it is, good. And if not. Anyway, the message I want you all to be inspired, right, is the message of Techeiles is Ani Hashem lo shinisi. Even when things don't look like they're going good, you have to know that it's all Rachmim, it's all Midas Rachmim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu does it in order that we should be able to do tshuva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should mashpir a lot of shefa of tshuva and bracha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.